Hey, thanks for joining us again on the Building HVAC Science Podcast. Let's start off this podcast by reading a couple quotes from the episode. If I can do this, anybody can do this. I don't want to be the guy. I want to be the guy helping other people become the guy. We're not recruiting kids into the trades. We're fostering curiosity and confidence in whoever they want to become. And you know you're doing something important because it touches your heart or brings a tear to your eye. Okay, with that launching of the episode, this is the Building HVAC Science Podcast, and we talk about a lot of things in the worlds of HVAC and building performance, hoping to inspire people that are in the trades. But in this episode, we talk about things that inspire people that are not yet perhaps in the trade. So Eric and I sit down and talk with the two passionate leaders from the Grit Foundation, the executive director, Leilani Orr, and the head of training, Ty Branaman. And together they unpack the origin story, purpose, and transformative impact of Grit camps, which introduce youth to the skilled trades in an immersive, hands-on way. Now we explore how Grit, which stands for growth and resilience in the trades, just isn't a clever acronym, but a whole total mindset. Through some personal stories, Leilani and Ty reflect on the deeper why behind the camps, fostering curiosity, building confidence, and instilling pride in practical skills that often go unrecognized. They discuss how using tools like the Socratic method not only helps students learn, but actually transforms mentors as well. I saw that happen in real time, often igniting their passions for the trades. You'll hear about real-life transformations, timid students who become torch-wielding creators, mentors discovering new ways to engage, and parents witnessing their children light up with newfound purpose. As a pending nonprofit, the Grit Foundation is fueled right now by heart, vision, and a small but mighty network of supporters with the hopes of expanding nationwide through thoughtful partnerships. Come take a listen to this episode. Take a look at some of the links in the show notes. If this strikes a chord with you, get engaged in Grit.
Hey, everybody out there in podcast land. Welcome back to the Building HVAC Science Podcast. Eric Kaiser right here. Mr. Bill Overkill Spohn, way over there in virtual land. And we've got two special guests with us today. I think Bill and I consider both of them to be personal friends.
100%.
Known them for a few years or several years now. We've got Leilani Orr, the executive director of the Grit Foundation, and Mr. Ty Branaman. I don't even know what your title is, Ty. Master of Education over at the Grit Foundation now?
Head of training.
Head of training. Okay.
That sounds very humble.
Welcome to both of you, and thanks for joining us.
It's great to be here. Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
We always like to start out with the guests introducing themselves, their background, and what led to being here today to have this conversation. I'll Leilani go first.
I'm Leilani Orr, and as Eric mentioned already, I'm an executive director of Grit Foundation. I'm also married to the co-founder of the foundation, Brian Orr, and I'm currently busy at home I have 10 children and am really loving this new venture we are on with the Grit Foundation and working alongside Ty Branaman regularly. It's been really awesome.
Mr. Branaman, introduce yourself.
I'm Ty Branaman. I love learning. I love HVAC and I love helping people. And when Brian came with this idea about the Grit Foundation and we run a group of people coming up with ideas and things that wouldn't work. And I just thought it was absolutely the greatest thing ever. And I tried everything to get to the first camp and I just couldn't make it happen. And I saw the pictures and it was just so moving to me seeing all these kids engaged. And I thought, wow, that is absolutely awesome. I want to be more of that. And so as soon as an opportunity arose, I didn't even hesitate. I jumped in both feet and haven't looked back. It's been absolutely awesome.
You also have some media you do yourself, Love to HVAC. That's your tagline. What is that? Where do you have content coming out there?
Just random places that have a YouTube for more of a formal training. Some people can't afford to go to a school, so I tried bringing the theory as you would have it in the classroom in progressive order. And then also have some fun content on TikTok, the Instagram, Facebook and let's see, what's the other one? LinkedIn, just like shorter videos. And by short, sometimes they're 10 minutes long, but just fun stuff or trying to get somebody to think a little differently or try to get people motivated to see a bigger picture. It's not a business or anything. It's just, I love the trade. I love helping people. And so how can I get people to think a little bigger, think outside the box, or to have access to information that before was gatekept? That's all it's about, is just helping people and having some fun sometimes too.
Very cool. Getting right to the heart of it, the Grit Foundation. Ty, you alluded to it, but Leilani, tell us how the idea first came to light and maybe what personally led you to be so involved.
Bryan Orr is always looking to the future for the next opportunity to share knowledge of the industry and to make training and exposure to the skilled trades more accessible for all. And a lot to what Ty was saying, the gatekeeping and the trying to hoard knowledge and stuff has just, Bryan has an aversion to that in a way that he wants to give to the community and find ways that we can do that in a valuable way. So last year, in October 2024, Bryan and co-founder Ruchir Shah, who is owner of SkillCat, discussed like how to bring the skilled trades to people in a bit more of a scaled, massive way. So they discussed about partnering with contractors and getting contractors to locally host grit day camps for youth in their community. And instead of it just being us in our specific area of the States, partner with contractors everywhere to do it where they are. So that was the initial initiative for the Grit Foundation. And in December of 2024, they did their first Grit Camp with Kalos Services in Claremont, Florida. And that's our local contracting business that Bryan owns. And so he said, "Hey, Leilani, can you have the kids join the Grit Day Camp?" And I want it was really funny because Bryan had been talking about this idea for some time, but had really been bringing other people on board with it. I didn't even know a lot of the details of it yet, but I happily and excitedly signed up our kids for the Grit Day Camp and then got to watch it play out in real action and was blown away by the immersive and hands-on dynamic of kids getting to be able to use power tools sometimes for the first time or cutting 2x4 and brazing, and the excitement and the joy on the kids' faces as a mom. And it was just like, I love this so much. How can I participate in it to grow this and expand this? So Bryan and I had a short conversation and a very long email I sent to him in the most professional way I knew how.
You interviewed for the job.
And I interviewed to be the executive director. So he accepted my offer and it's been, the rest is history. But no, it's just been so inspiring and motivating to just see how many people are really excited about this, and contractors relate to it. They want it. They see the value and they're signing up and ready to do this with us.
So I want to ask you both, Leilani and Ty, first, one of you define what GRIT, the acronym, means, and then what the components of that acronym, the word, the phrase, actually mean to you personally. And I'll let Ty go first.
It's growth and resilience in the trades. And I love the trades. It's done so much for my entire life. When everything was taken from me, nobody could take away the skills and I could start over. And I want other people to have that. And so there is resilience you have to have. You have to have the grit to get through. When you're having to fix something in the middle of summer in an attic and you got sweat in your eyes, you can't just be like, hey, I'll do this tomorrow. You have to push through. And then you're running into another problem, new technology. You're thinking, how do I solve this problem? You have to figure it out. You have to have that grit to push through and persevere. And a big part of that we miss out is growth. Sometimes we just get into the grind and we forget about the growth, the learning side of that. And for the trades, so much of the time we hear all the time, we need more people in the trades. We need more people in the trades. And people coming out of school, they've already been hit with so much of that. You have to go to college. You have to go to college. And there's nothing wrong with college, obviously. But for somebody like me, college was not the right fit. And to be able to have young people have an idea, be introduced to something early on outside of school, and not just somebody coming in and guest speaking, which is great, but them actually getting to do the work with a tradesperson, somebody that's done this as a career. Every single day they're doing this, they're providing for their family, they're getting to meet these people while exploring and discovering these skills in the first place. And for me, that is just beyond words.
And Leilani, please. What's it mean to you personally, grit?
Yeah, growth and resilience in trades is something I've been surrounded by most of my life, being with my parents, generations prior to mine, and then being married to Brian and seeing so much of the ways that the trades have been really meaningful to our family and into fulfilling in careers, and me being able to observe that and see both the fulfillment and success that has come through pushing through those early days of like when Brian was running a business and in the attic and also doing office work. It took so much grit. It took so much sweat and work and hard work. But there was never a question that for Brian, and he always loved what he was doing. And to be able to share his experience with others and also to give an opportunity to people that are typically what you're often conditioned to go to college or go to careers that your parents maybe experience. And so that's what they want you to do next. And sometimes the skilled trades has not been an opportunity for option A for a lot of people. And I see grit as being a place for young people and current tradespeople to grow and to be resilient and to find fulfilling meaning in their work.
So True Tech and Fast Track Learning Labs, Chad Simpson's company, ran a grit camp just a couple weeks ago. It was fantastic. A little nerve-wracking thinking like we're not going to get enough students there, but it's flexible in that sense. And we did get enough mentors and all. But something I didn't realize something you just said there about professionals in the trade, contractors in the trade, is that there's this giant hack going on behind the scenes with the Socratic method. And if I'm being obscure, ask me to clarify, but can you talk about that? Like what you're actually doing for the person who is the mentor who's participating?
So we're putting together an actual training course for the Socratic method. And to me, it's awesome because when I was in school, we just had to sit and somebody presented information and we had actual slides with overhead projector and it was a one-way information. And for me with ADHD, I struggled to learn. I wanted to participate and wanted to learn. I just struggled with that. I always thought, hey, I just wasn't very smart. And then I just realized, hey, I just learn a little differently. And once I learned how to embrace that, my career was unlimited. So the Socratic method is just really embracing that different way of learning with curiosity, learning with questions, learning with discovery. It's okay to let students and let kids make mistakes. That's how we learn. So sometimes it's difficult for a mentor to be like, hey, just try it. Just see what's going to happen and not give them all of the answers right up front. Let them do discovery. And Eric does a great job with this. Of all the camps we've done, I've seen him at 2 camps and he's great about asking questions and not just they ask a question, he asks a question back, gets them thinking. And it's just beautiful seeing that happen. And now you see these kids are excited about learning and now they're asking you more questions. They're now giving you permission to tell them more information. And then that leads to more learning and more growth. And it's like unlocking these next levels. Oh, I learned that. I want to learn something else. And yeah, we want to help them. We want to tell them the easy way to do it. But when they get to go through that little challenge themselves in a controlled environment, it's huge. I mean, it's just absolutely huge. I remember working on a wiring diagram for a blower and I had pulled the wires off. I didn't write them down where they went. And I called this lead tech and I was stressed. It was Friday night. And the guy's like, hey, I'm not going to tell you where they go. I want you to get the wiring diagram and I want you to tell me. And I was so mad. I had to walk outside the customer's house and be unpleasant to myself. And then I came back in and I did what he said. And I was able to then solve wiring issues that were unlimited, way more than what he could just give me the answer for, which wasn't like a pleasant way of doing it at the time. But the Grit Camp, we have where it makes it a fun way to do that, to experience that. And it's a great way of learning. And so, yeah, it's great to learn it with the kids, but also using the Socratic method with adults work good too. So we're talking about apprentices having a fun way of learning. Sometimes, yeah, we have to just, here's what needs to be done, get it done. But also when you build that curiosity of, hey, what would happen? What would happen if we did this? What do you think would happen if we didn't do this? It's just a powerful way of communicating and discovering.
Yeah. And I would say, even with the grit camps themselves, I've seen the Socratic method being played out in a way where we have these new grit mentors that show up for their first time. They don't really know what a grit camp's all about yet. They've been told it's a cool thing to do and that they are recruited by a contractor or a friend or somebody who believes it will be a great experience for them. And they show up with a lot of questions like, what is it going to look like today? How is this going to play out? And I have seen in over and over again the group of tradespeople that show up with knowledge and skills, but they even still have questions and they play that out throughout the day with these students. And many of them have said after camps, I learned something new today. This wasn't just some straightforward, everybody knows how it's going to go. It's going to be neat and tidy. There's always something that happens that's a little like, oh, how do we fix this? How are we going to do this? How are we going to set up in this type of facility? How many people? And even those having those questions, but going into it with a positive mindset creates an experience that is just really remarkable and has been really encouraging for me to see other people step up in a space that they don't have all the answers right off the bat. They don't know exactly how it's going to go, but they want to be involved and they do. And they share so much with these students with that positive mindset about, hey, I don't know what's going to happen, but I'm here and I'm showing up and I'm going to do this with these students and engage in a way that's been pretty powerful.
And on that, seeing some of these skills that we've just taken for granted. We've done it for so long, reading a tape measure, using a saw. We've just taken these for granted. So getting to remember that, hey, we had to learn these skills. We had to pick this up somewhere. This isn't just something that just came to us. And they get to really have an appreciation for their own skills again, seeing people have to go through and struggle with some of these things like a tape measure, which side of the line you cut on, how to hold the screw while you're putting the drill in. And it's really powerful for the mentors that sharing, getting to share what you do for a living, and then also having pride in those skills that we take for granted.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's just a overall feel-good experience for everybody. That's my quick summary of it. Eric, you guide us through the next step of talking through the actual camp, the questions there, because you've been involved in two, and get Leilani and Ty talking about that.
I just want to say that I found it interesting because I went back and learned a lot about teaching just in those two camps and using that Socratic method, which is really, as Ty and Leilani have said, asking those questions to get the answers out of people and get them thinking about the answers rather than just looking for that answer. And one of the first things that hit me was after the mentors get with the students in that camp, one of the first things they do is look at a set of blueprints. And it hit me that a lot of them didn't even know what blueprints were. So I had to ask them, okay, what is a set of blueprints? And I had to think about, okay, how am I going to answer that afterwards? Because, right, blueprints are blueprints to me. And I had to think back about what is this going on here? What am I going to tell them? And it came back to, hey, that's another method of communication, right? That's taking somebody's hours of thought and consideration and mathematics or whatever else may be working between multiple people, distilling that all down to pieces of paper or lines on a piece of paper to communicate thought and consideration to people that actually have to do that. It was kind of a mindset shift for me, just thinking about that as someone that has to be a mentor periodically, but also still has to learn too. And I think that's one of the really big things about that I've seen on this is learning how to be better mentors and taking that to these kids. But then we can take that learning how to be a better mentor back to the companies that the mentors are coming from and improve their mentorship. So I don't know, Ty and Leilani, are you seeing any of that happening in the camps that you've been at? Because you've been at a lot more than I have.
Absolutely. It's funny because we just take blueprints for granted. And one of the questions that I'll get asked is, well, why aren't they blue? But it's like, man, I had to think they actually used to be blue. And I'm going through all this and it's like, I don't know. I'm going to have to go look this up. They're just blueprints. So I have to admit, I don't know things. But you're right. It's a different form of communication. And so we communicate verbally, we communicate with pictures visually, audibly, and then also kinetic, actually doing it. And so the Grit Camp is really about all of those ways of learning, communicating it. And you're exactly right. When they're getting to take something from paper and then get to make that into a three-dimensional, and also on the boards, how the wood's cut, they're specifically not the exact measurement to get them thinking of, well, what should it be? How thick is a 2x4? They don't know that. We had one camp to where the boards were pre-cut and the person that did the pre-cutting wasn't a tradesperson. That's okay. But they'd cut them all just exactly at what the number was instead of looking at the whole scale. And it just goes back to how important it is for us to look at the blueprint and think of what information we have there. And sometimes we have to decipher, we have to solve the clues, even on something like a blueprint, to get the answers that we need.
Yes, and just explaining that there's a lot of hidden information here that we have to find. And it's a very basic blueprint, but there's a lot on there that's not stated, obviously, that just that discussion over the blueprint creates a lot of curiosity and learning about in a basic but new way for many.
And even if the student doesn't get into the trades, you've imparted a future citizen with the respect for the trades, which is another R, which should be grit.
Yeah. And I think while, of course, we're a proponent and supportive of the skilled trades as a plan A for a future career, but even more than that, and we tell the youth this and also the people that we talk to about Grit Foundation, it's not that we're just trying to recruit you into the trades. We want to foster learning and curiosity for the next generation and for those who are currently in it. That's where the real impact will come, is when all of us as individuals are excited about learning and have the grit to move forward in unknowns. And if these kids don't pick the trades as a career, it's still such a win and such that they got to experience that and that they were positive about it. I want to remind people that this is about community impact. It's not like sales for the trades. It's not that we're recruiting kids. We hope they want to, but we do want kids to do what they want too. And we make the things interesting for them. And then they have that in the back of their mind. If they're 12 years old and experiencing this for the first time, they've got years ahead of them before they have to decide what to do next. But why not start giving them some options earlier on, and they can remember back to that day camp, or maybe go again and then search the next thing out with the skilled trades or hands-on skills that they can learn. And for us, it's just been real joy to just be growing that mindset, even within the trades, but also for whatever you choose to do. Be curious, keep building, and learn.
One of the camps, we had one of the parents came over to help out. And it was funny because they had said this, well, this is a lot harder than I thought it was going to be. I thought that was so important. I thought maybe we should have one of these adult camps just to show people that, hey, to have the respect for these skills of the tradespeople.
Yeah.
And I know it's not a numbers game for you all. I know it's in your heart, but some people would be curious, I'm sure, like how many camps have you run? How many are scheduled? How many students in general? Just what's the data side?
So we launched this year, so we're pretty new still, 6 months in. We've done about 6 camps. We have 7 now. And then we have 3 more in the next few weeks, and then a couple of more on the horizon for planning out. We are focusing a lot this fall on just even the past month, after we did a few camps, Ty and I are looking over the guide and realizing, oh, this needs work. The mentors are like, this is confusing. It's like, oh yeah, wow. Now that I'm seeing it from beginning to end, let's go back to the drawing table here, reword, edit this, make it more doable for the hosts and bring more clarity to how to do these camps, and to make sure we are continuing to communicate that these are not super easy to set up day camps. Like, they take a lot of work, they take a lot of time. But when you do one camp, it opens up your company to being able to do it over and over and over. You can do it once, and now you have mentors. You know that kids are loving this sort of thing, and that the community, you can reach out to the community in different sets of kids every camp. So the amount of camps and the amount of youth we can reach is endless in that way. But our numbers are certainly not staggering at this point about how many we've run yet. But we really believe that will grow as each camp happens. then the next contractor will hear about it. And then in the same, even fast track, Chad Simpson from Simpson salutes it. He's like, I'm dedicating a whole cage for supplies for grid. Let's do this every month. So that is where, when everybody starts to feel that way, we can scale, and it doesn't require us to be at every single one. Over time, this is something that companies can own themselves and repeat as they feel ready to do so.
Are you encouraging them to maybe modify it to their local situation, maybe something they want to teach or something different they don't want to teach as far as the procedures? Because you've got I'll say a loosely set flow or procedures and everything else that goes into this. And then are you taking that, like if you hear about their modifications, are you going to take that back in and think about it for the general flow that you're putting out?
Yes.
Sometimes wait, I'm like, I don't want to keep Ty.
We're definitely modifying each time. And we've had camps where, hey, they didn't want to do this module or they didn't want to do that module. And we're okay with that. We want that ownership of that local community, that local contractor. We do like to see them taking on more of the stuff, because sometimes they're like, oh, the lunch activity doesn't seem important. And we get to see that, no, that really is an important aspect. But yeah, we want them to customize it, make it their own. The whole idea of the guide is to make it to where it's easier for that first one. And Sue at TrueTech did such good work going through the guide at every detail and getting to communicate with her. We got to really see where our guide was really lacking on the prep side. And we're revamping that whole thing to make it to where it's easier to set it up, because most of the business owners that are excited about doing one of the camps typically has a different office personnel getting a lot of the supplies ready. And we need to address that to make sure that that is something that they can follow through and have everything needed ahead of time. I mean, Sue did just such a good job making sure every possible thing was there. And sometimes stuff isn't there, and that's okay. We work around those things and we have the grit to overcome it. And every camp has been really great.
It's almost like you need to have those surprise aspects and the pushing through the things that real world present you, challenges. Yeah.
Yeah, it is even more of a real life experience for kids and the mentors, students and mentors, to see like, oh, we have to adjust. When you go up to a service call as a tradesperson, you never know what you're going to have. You have to be prepared to think fast, adjust, be flexible, and solve the problem at hand. And it has been something that the grit camps, I think, will always have that aspect to it, because it isn't the same person doing the camps at every camp. It's always there's going to be different personalities. There's going to be different preferences. And our guide, like Ty said, I love it when the host wants to do all of the modules, because really going from beginning to end is the most immersive experience these students can get. And so they're all valuable, every module. And there's a couple of modules that we have in our mind that we actually like, okay, this would be a really good module, but it's probably most people won't do it. But if the host thinks of this module or wants to do it, we have that for them. They can pick to do that module. But if it's not something that's most likely going to be part of the camp, we're also removing it from the standard guide but there are a couple of modules that would be great for the right location and the right person or the right host.
And even the right student, because some of them will zip through the core stuff and be ready for another challenge. And that was accounted for at the camp that we ran. But we keep on teasing about all the modules and stuff. Who's going to explain this to our listeners? Who's going to tell us what's going on here?
Bill wants to know what's going on, in case you didn't get that.
I want to know what's going on.
Ty can explain the modules pretty well, I think, at this point, right, Ty?
Yeah, so we start out with an introductory. We build curiosity, kind of like an escape room, what they're going to be doing today, finding the lost skills. We make it into an experience. We roll into the safety side. And then the safety side is also an experience. We do the whole thing about why do we wear safety glasses, and interactive, and not sitting in a PowerPoint talking about every single camp. Somebody said, we have PowerPoint set up. I'm like, nope, not at a grit camp. And so we go over and interact with them, how to put the vest on, make sure that they're invested, and they have the safety glasses to protect their eyes. It's a clear choice. And having the gloves, if they don't have their fingers, how are they going to put the gloves on? So all of these things, it makes it fun. And so like the safety part of it's a huge one. And then they unlock that level, they get their tools, and then they get to go over to the construction area. And then they have the blueprints. Now it's another challenge they get to unlock. And the first one we have is the carpentry, where they're getting to take the blueprints and use a tape measure and use a dangerous saw. And we have that done pretty safe. We have a lot of procedures that we've put in place to make sure that's safe, because If an OSHA person at the company, they freak out about pretty much all of this. But we have these steps: keeping the saw unplugged, using only one hand, having a mentor there, making sure clamps are involved. But these kids getting to use a chop saw or a miter saw, their eyes are huge, and some of them are scared at first. And before you know it, they're just pulling the trigger, cutting it down, and remeasuring it. They're so excited using that saw. And then we go over to the pipe fitting side. They're cutting PVC for the first time. They're getting to measure it. And they're just so excited getting to use these tools. Something as simple as how to open up PVC cutters. Like, it's a new challenge. You have to figure out how to do this. And getting to use glue and primer. And then, of course, you get the brazing side. You get to play with fire. So the saw is always their favorite until we get to the brazing. Then brazing is their favorite. They love playing with fire in a safe way. And why is this actually practical? Why are we doing this? And then from there, we go into the lunch side to what they're eating, the heat from the food, the air around them, all of the invisible stuff. We just get to have fun little experiments. I think the best part of it's the thermal imager, where they get to actually see heat. They get to look at the walls. They get to see their friends. And every time that one's a different turnout, because people bring in different supplies, and how the students react, just respond to how they're reacting, what they're the most interested in. One time we had them running back and forth across the field, partly to burn some energy, but then also, how do you feel after all that running? Well, that's energy. Use the thermal imager. How do you look? How can we heat up the air in this balloon? They're figuring this stuff out. They're having so much fun doing it. And then we go into the electrical side. We have electrical kits. They get to use a meter to find which is a good and bad bulb using ohms. They get to find what's a good and bad battery using volts. And there's a lot of adults that don't know how to do that. And then they get to do an electrical kit and then change it up. What happens if we put batteries in series or parallel, or the light bulbs in series and parallel, then test it with the meter? And then every camp, there's at least one group of kids that decide, hey, if we put our batteries together, could we make it even brighter? And then they burn out a bulb, and that's more discovery and more fun. And then we have the teardown section where they get to take something apart. If we have time, we don't always have time for that one. We have a blower. They get to take a blower apart, disassemble something, see how it works. And then I think one of my favorite ones at the beginning, I wasn't so excited about this, but seeing how excited the kids are for the customization, where they get to use this chomp saw, taking cardboard and get to cut shapes out, or use markers or decorations. Some use a torch and burn the wood to decorate it. And they use a hot glue gun and they're gluing all the electrical pieces in, or the aluminum can that they tried brazing on. They're customizing that box to be their own, however they want it to look. And they get like really into this. And it's so exciting seeing them being so proud of this wooden box with a piece of copper and PVC in it. And then they made it their own and they're proud of it. That's the modules in super fast short form. And I think it's absolutely awesome.
And it's cool that challenges are presented, but the mentors are very careful to let the pace go at the student's pace. And Eric, talk a little bit about your experience. I did see the same thing Leilani saw. There were a lot of smiles, a lot of engagement with the two students at the grit camp we ran. So tell us a little bit about how that works and dealing with different students, where they're coming from.
It's a challenge for the mentor. Just like mentoring anybody, you've got to figure out where they're at. And that's where I find asking those questions really figures out where somebody is at. Because as a mentor, I don't want to just step in and tell somebody to do something if they already know to do it. But in this case, I also want to teach them how to think about something. What is that process if they come up upon something that is they don't know how to do, and maybe they don't have somebody to ask? Well, let's sit here and think about this. Let's reason it out. Don't just wait for somebody to tell you exactly what you have to do. And working with the different students is always interesting because it's a fun dynamic to figure that out for me. To me, it's a challenge. How do you encourage them? What type of interaction are they going to give back? And where do I get to see their face light up? Because that's my goal, is always to get to see their face light up when they're learning something or because they learned something new. So that interaction to me is, as a mentor, probably the most fun. Now, I want to step back and say that I think Ty breezed over the lunch section a little too quick, because Ty, in both the ones that I've been at, Ty handles the lunch section, and he does an amazing job of getting all of the students that come in to be interactive and engaged, whether it be with air density or heat or movement, using energy in different ways and showing them with super simple methods, Ty, I got to commend you on that. And like you said, Leilani said earlier, maybe you guys don't have to be at all of these, but I want to know who's going to clone Ty to be at all of these, because I don't think you're going to find somebody that replaces him easily to be able to do these events.
Yeah, it's a real value to have Ty's personality and his interactive ways and styles that, yeah, it's not going to be easy to replace. One of the things that we would like to see, though, is we're going to have a video course for mentors to take that they will be able to see what Ty does. And there's a lot of people that have this, they don't even know if they can do it because they've never tried, and they have some qualms about, oh, I'm just not a good teacher, or I don't know how to share my knowledge. I'm just better at doing it myself. But when you see that actually, if you have skills and you do know how to do something, it's really exciting to show somebody that's never doesn't know about this yet. And so we've seen a lot of mentors step up in a way with quieter, more introverted personalities. They actually really love engaging with the students. And we do it at Grit Camp. We do it where one mentor has no more than 2 students that they are responsible for during the day for most of the modules, so that it will feel a little bit overwhelming at first. But you've got 2 students that are solely yours for the day to share what you know. And with our video course that's coming soon, I think it will help give people ideas of how to express things in such an engaging way. And Ty, though, yeah, it's like, we can't do this without Ty. That's how I feel right now. Like, I really do. But the reality is also Ty can't be everywhere all the time, especially if we want this to scale. So we do want people to step up and learn from Ty and from you other mentors. I think Eric was an example of the last couple of camps. I'm like, man, just the other mentors were working kind of nearby. I think they saw Eric's engagement and that they noted that. And then they start asking their students the kind of questions that naturally isn't something they would maybe do, but they start seeing the feedback and engagement with the students. That's really valuable. And so learning from each other in this is what we want to be able to share. And with our video courses, we are hoping that people can see how awesome the lunch lesson is, the lunch module. Like, don't skip this. And also food is just a good warming time for everybody to gather in a
Community
group,
aspect.
have fun, laugh, get a little wild and loud, and then go back to that focused skill sets.
So the video series will be titled Unleash Your Inner Ty. Is that what you're going for?
We have like Thai food.
Untie your inner Ty.
Untie your inner Ty. Perfect.
I do appreciate the compliment, but anybody can do this. Like, I failed math, I failed geometry, I failed all of these subjects in school, and I was in the work program, and that was like the thing that I could do was I could work. And me being an introvert, being able to figure out how to communicate with somebody else outside of just the words, outside of just a PowerPoint or a book. And if I can do this, anybody can do this. I remember thinking like, wow, I could never install a unit like this, just being the apprentice. And then I remember thinking, oh, I could never do the service side. And then, oh, I could never work on inverters. I could never do supermarket refrigeration. I could never do. And then when you make it a goal that you're going to do it, you accomplish it. So I have fun with that side. I mean, it's just because I have such a passion for that, me learning differently than how I was taught in school. But if I can do this, anybody can do this. You just have to say, hey, that's my goal. I want to learn, and don't do it my way. Make it your own. And I want to see more people doing this. I don't want to be the guy. I want to be the guy helping other people be the guy or the girl or the person. I want to empower other people to do this.
And I'll say, just from being a mentor, one of the biggest things that I've had to learn, because I've done a little bit of this in other avenues prior to going to the grit camps, is really patience. As a mentor, we have got to have patience. So I just wanted to throw that out there.
But we don't even have doctors.
Different patience, Ty.
Eric, is this where we get the ping pong balls?
Yes,
Yeah.
I think this is where we get the ping pong balls out.
And start throwing them at Ty.
Oh, give them to the students too.
Yeah, that was at the last camp. Aiden DeVilbus and I were standing there talking about that. And Aiden says, man, I wish I had a ping pong ball right now. These things just come up. But that was where, to me, like, I think as a mentor, we really have to have that patience to ask the question and then sit there and watch. And that is one of the fascinating things to me, is watching somebody's thought process And as they're going through that thought process, I'm trying to figure out what they're thinking. And I might ask them what they're thinking, or I might say, hey, have you thought about it this way in the middle of that? Because I'm thinking, I want to know how they're thinking about it because it helps me to understand where they're at, what they're doing. And maybe I learned something from them, which is always a really cool thing too.
Are there any examples any of you can think of where you've seen transformation in just that short period of time that the grit camp runs? And that's about 6 hours or so. Is anybody going to comment on general or maybe specific transformations in the students or the mentors?
A little bit of both I have seen. I remember one particular situation. One of the students was very timid with the tools. He wasn't actually loving taking any of the specific guidance even because he also just didn't know what to do with it. He just didn't have that confidence. But as we went on and the day went on, and he has another student alongside him, he's not the only one that's working with this mentor. But as he got more and more comfortable, because the mentor also was giving him time, to Eric's point, was being patient. There was a moment, I believe it was after lunch where, or it was it would have been at the customization at the end, the last module, where he had an opportunity to this is 30 minutes. You get to do what you want to do now. He went straight to the torch and he's like, can you help? I want to make this. And he had something in his mind that he wanted to make. And he just went at it with the mentor guiding him, because that's one of our rules is students have to have the mentor nearby if they're with the torch or the table saws. But he just started taking ownership. And it was not something in the module itself, but it was a skill set he had learned in one of the modules that he now used for his initials he took some copper and put the initials, made his initials. And I don't think he would have wanted to leave. But his parents came, it was 4, and he had to leave. And he had transformed from being shy and felt not loving the instruction, but also I think he felt insecure. And that just over 6 hours and over a period of time where you're also just watching other students engage and do stuff. At the end of the day, he didn't want to leave. And he was doing stuff. He was so confident with it. He was so excited about having this new skill set and making his own thing at the end. And I loved, that was one instance where I saw that there was definitely a transformation within even that amount of time.
So cool.
I got to say, I had one in the last camp that I was at, the True Tech and Fast Track camp. One of my mentees, they said they weren't good at math. And there's a little bit of math involved in this to figure out some of the problems. And they ended up being the one that was teaching the other mentee that I had at the table all of the math problems and how to do them. And I'm like, okay, you're better than you think you are.
Yeah. And I think that sharing of experience, that shared experience and shared knowledge is where we really start to thrive and grow as humans. And sometimes we haven't taken the opportunity to do that because we are either afraid or insecure and we work by ourselves and we don't want anybody to analyze us. And when you start feeling safe, in a safe place to do that, even Ty said in school, his traditional school setting, there was these limitations. But when he got out of that, it was limitless. It was a shift of mindset. And I think that what happens with these students and the mentors. It's oh, I thought numbers were confusing and fractions, but this is making sense because I can apply it to something. Hey, let me show you how to do it. To your point, the other student at that point, he or she was ready to help the other student along.
And to me, that's the cool thing is when I've got 2 people there and I can get one of them helping the other one or back and forth. And both times I've had that in with my mentees, one of them will help with something and they'll be a little stronger. And then the other one will help the other one with something else where they're stronger. And it was really neat to be able to see that dynamic.
That respect for each other, right? And the differences even.
Yeah.
I have so many examples, but there's 2 specifically that really stand out. And one was at Craig Michelaccia's camp, AC Service Tech. This one kid in particular, he didn't look like he was just really involved in it. He was focused on everything he was doing, but I never saw a smile or any excitement. So it always just worries me in my mind. And then the next day I was with Craig and the community and their parents came up and was just so excited of how excited their kids were. They said when he came home, he was telling us for an hour about everything that he had did with this box. And I said, that may not sound like much, but we ask him every day about school. We ask him every day about class. And his answers are just fine, okay, no, no engagement. And he came in with this box and was telling us everything about it. And so for me, that was huge. The second one was with a mentor that said, I had so much fun teaching this way. I never thought about it before. And I learned from watching other mentors around me what was happening because I didn't really know how to embrace that. They were listening to the other mentors around them of how to use that Socratic method. And then they said, I'm going to start using this with my apprentices. And for me, that was a huge win because that's one of the goals is being able to use that Socratic method, not just with kids, but more of what we do to get people interested and excited.
Can you speak towards any surprises or disappointments in this process so far? Both Ty and Leilani.
Oh, there's lots of surprises.
Mhm.
Surprises is not having, I think the biggest, hardest challenge for us was the guide, realizing that we're going to need to put a guide together. And then we worked on it so much on print and with so many people helping. And then when you get it in actual paper, realizing that, oh, this isn't as good. And then seeing somebody struggle, not being able to realize, hey, they need to put this camp together and the guide isn't easy to follow. I think that was a huge hit for me. Like Sue was so passionate about working with that and she aced it. But for me, realizing that, hey, that was difficult and it didn't need to be difficult. So for me, that was a big one. And we've been working on that every single day.
Yeah. And I think one of the things about Grit Foundation and Brian is so good at reminding me of this because I have a tendency to want things to go real smooth and to have the answers. I want things to be very clear. I want other people to feel like there's a lot of clarity and to feel confident. But there's always going to be something to learn and something to adjust. No matter, I think, how long we do this, that is part of what we really believe at Grit Foundation and what we want others to feel about in life in general is that you go out there and you start. You do need to start and then you make your adjustments. And that's been a little bit humbling for me, not even exposing myself a whole lot to the corporate world prior to this. It's like, oh gosh, that was embarrassing. Oh, that was confusing. How many times I have to have meetings and go back and forth over something just to bring clarity or even funnel out the people who want to host, but really don't have the support that they need for it because you need a lot of support. You need to know a handful or more of tradespeople that are currently active. You have to have a facility that is able to support the camps. And so there's a lot of that that's just like, oh, that doesn't feel good all the time, but that's okay. Like just progress, get better at it, adjust. And sometimes something like Grit Camp isn't going to be for everybody. And that's not a bad thing. It's just a reality. And people can be excited about it, whether they can, maybe they can't host one, but they want to support one. And I think that's what we have to remember that there's all of these spaces, they're going to fluctuate. And I'm going to have to absorb some inconveniences for other people or the host and Ty, our confusion. Sometimes I'm like, sorry, gosh, I wish I would have set up better. Oops, next time maybe. And so there's stuff like that have been a real challenge, but that's like a startup. That's what it is. Brian's 100% comfortable with that. And so yay for that, because he does encourage in a way that's like, hey, it doesn't have to be perfect to be good. And then as we grow, you get better. Is it the Kaiser effect?
As we wrap up here, share with us a closing thought. Maybe you want to talk about where you think things are headed. What's the big dream or purpose? And we'll for sure put a link to the Grit Foundation in the show notes for people who want to get involved. But as you wrap up, Leilani and Ty, in reverse order, we'll go Ty, then Leilani, where you see things heading in the next few years?
I stopped trying to guess what the future is going to be. I just try to do as much as I can now. And thankfully, I'm surrounded by really awesome people that are good at planning and visionaries like Brian and Leilani, because I would not be able to do any of this without them. So like I have things that I'm good at and things that I am not good at, and planning some things out, having meetings, spelling anything is not my specialty. For me, I have the two big things is you have to keep learning, whether it's your own trade or something, you have to keep learning something else. You have to keep pushing yourself to keep learning. Once you stop learning, it's so hard getting back into that. And the second thing is to have compassion and care for people. If we think that we have the compassion, we are going to care for people, even though sometimes it's difficult. But if we continue to care for people and have compassion for people we're training, people we're learning from, with those two things, then you're limitless.
I'm very excited to see this foundation grow in a way that really gives support to current tradespeople and acknowledges the skill sets and the work and investment that they day in and day out are doing and giving back to the world around them. And I want for Grit Foundation just to be a place that supports the tradespeople and the youth, but the tradespeople really first so that they can then support the future generations in that. And I'm excited to see how that plays out. I know that Brian and Ty have a vision of how to make that something that's attainable and via courses or getting people on board with seeing the value in training your people, training within your company itself, and not letting go of the importance of that. Because just talking about the skilled trades being amazing or how we don't have enough workers isn't going to fill the gap. We have to, one person at a time, be investing in training and value education in that way and growth, and then giving it feet to make that where the kids can experience the skilled trades before they have to decide what to do. But then also the mentors and the apprentices are feeling empowered to share their knowledge and to also learn for themselves. I'm just here for that. I'm super thrilled to be a part of a team of people that, we all have different gifts and abilities, and to work together is a really beautiful thing.
And on that note, as we wrap up here, I'm going to speak for everybody here, and hopefully I'm correct, but you know what you're doing is important because it touches your heart or brings a tear to your eye. That's what it did for me.
I agree with that. I do have one more question, and this one I'm going to direct at Leilani. How are you funding this? How is this organization being funded, and can people help with funding on the organization?
Yeah, so it's currently, we have a few supporters that have just stepped up and they're excited about what we're doing. And it's through word of mouth, friends of Brian or Ty or the industry, they're hearing about it. But largely right now, it is funded personally and co-founder Shear. You have a plan and hope that manufacturers, companies, and individuals want to help move this forward. And we will have a space and a place for them to do that with a marketing package or a donation type of funding packages that we would love to share with them if they're interested in. But one thing we do want to also remind people is that we are a pending nonprofit and we are going to keep our costs as low as we can. We don't need money for personal gain, but we want to share it and grow it. And so we're going to be thoughtful of how we do that. But there are real expenses. So we're hoping as this grows and more people see the camps and more people experience the camps that they want to get on board with it.
Fantastic. Thanks for spending some time with us today. Anyone if this piques your interest, there's some resources, materials, and contact info available at thegritfoundation.com. We'll put the link in the show notes. Thanks again, Ty, Leilani, Eric. See you soon.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
We thank you for listening to this episode of the Building HVAC Science Podcast, which is a production of TrueTech Tools Limited. In full disclosure, I'm the owner of TrueTech. We, of course, sell tools and test instruments. TrueTechTools.com, TrueTechTools.com. We also offer an offer code. We offer offer codes. Interesting, huh? The code we offer is HVACBS, and you get a nice discount when you purchase from TrueTech Tools. Well, thank you for listening to and following Building HVAC Science and hopefully engaging with the Grit Foundation. Grit camps. It's where trades meet transformation. Become part of that transformation. Take care.